record. Yeah, we're live.
Hello and welcome to Moreness-Culture. Good morning, Sil.
Good morning, Beena. Good morning. It is a good morning. It is. It is a most
Yes.
excellent
Good
morning.
morning, Screen. Yes.
And I want to say good morning.
Oh yes, good morning.
That's how they say it on Nobilia.
Oh yes, it's beautiful. Thank you. Good mornings to everyone who is going to join us live and will watch us recorded later. You all are most welcome to join this Moreness-Culture, which Sil has created for us, and he's sharing. And when it comes to sharing, especially in Moreness-Culture, it's a very different concept of sharing. We take responsibility of sharing, free sharing, capital S sharing, which requires 50% from your side. Okay, yes, it has to be it has to be at the receiving end. And we call it sharing. Receiving is also sharing in Moreness-Culture. So there is no hierarchy, there is no superiority in this, that, oh, I'm sharing something, so I'm the one who is giving, I'm going to teach you something. No, nothing like that. But participant in this sharing are equal and 50% responsible. If someone is sharing, someone is also taking a responsibility of receiving it and perceiving it. So this is a different concept. It is not based on any superiority or any hierarchy. It's like just a fun thing that, okay, I'm sharing free. Okay, yes, you have a responsibility of receiving, but you are not obliged to actually participate in it. This is another like really disclaimer here, that no, if you want to, then of course, if you really feel that there is a value, you can have that responsibility. When I say that, if people assume that, okay, they are obliged to, no, you're not obliged to. But once you are making a decision, just make this thing very clear that you are also a giver here. You are also providing value, 50-50 value from the receiver and from the, of course, the whoever is sharing. So the both hand are equally important for that, because they both are adding value to the sharing. And of course, we are, when Sil share about, capital S share about the concept of sharing, we always say that, okay, I'm sharing it with free intent. Like, okay, yes, I'm just giving it. Of course, you can come up with different perspectives and multiple perspectives and coexisting multiple perspectives. This is what adding value in sharing means. So it is just a small thought about today's thought about capital S sharing. And this is what we are doing.
Wonderful.
Yes, and also just a bit, I feel that, okay, it would be really good if someone is coming and having this understanding of our intent. Because what we are doing nowadays, we are busy with doing capital R reading of Carlos Castaneda's books about Don Juan. We are not doing any regular reading, first thing. Second, even with the capital R reading, we are doing it with a very specific intent to connect with Don Juan's, of course, his intent, the bigger perspective, also connect with his sharing. And it is like it has to be in a bigger abstract concept. We love the details and specifics. We are thoroughly enjoying this and they are valuable. But having the center column is connect with the bigger intent of sharing. Remember that he, or maybe in many people in his lineage, were exploring those things first time.
Yes.
That was the intent to explore moreness. So when someone is doing something first time, they are the one who is actually exploring moreness. And this is what we want to connect with. This is what our intent is.
Yes. Very powerful, because when we can get inside somebody and really know them, particularly when they are exhibiting and practicing and employing and applying moreness in any way, form. But in this particular context, it is a moreness that resonates with Moreness-Culture. There's a lot there that's the same. So if we get to know Don Juan, we get inside somebody who is applying what we also apply and seek to apply more. Right? And the more you know that, the easier it becomes to do. The more you know it, the more you understand it, the more aware you are. Right? it's very, very, very helpful, very powerful to know somebody like this. Right, Beena?
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
This
very,
is
very wonderfully powerful. Very wonderfully powerful. All right, brilliant, brilliant. Let us go right to our reading. Let's go right to our reading. And, oh, there's my. There we go. There we go. There we go. The last battle on Earth. Share. That's the next chapter. Just to recap yesterday, or last time we were on Sunday, last one, previous live. I was talking about a technique for improving awareness, and not just being more aware, but more particularly to be aware of what you want to be aware of. Okay, like let's say I want to be aware of listening to the sounds of the world. Yeah, you can set that
yes.
intent, but we forget, and you go into a bubble, right? You lose your awareness of that, and now the technique was to disrupt your regular, ordinary routines. How you stir your coffee, how you brush your hair, whatever you do, right? Which shoe you put on first, how you tie it, whichever. Any and all routines. You want to do all of them. Just do them differently. And the objective is to associate the doing differently of the routine with remembering to be aware of what you want to be aware of. That's the crucial key here. Disrupting the routines, yes, it has some value because you learn to be more deliberate, you learn to be more focused, you learn to be more aware, you just learn deliberate living, and you learn to be more in the moment. However, when you associate it with remembering what you want to remember with your abstract overview intents, this becomes inordinately powerful. Right? So every time, okay, I'm doing my shoes. Oh yes, I'm changing routine. Oh yes, oh yes. And you've associated, I'm remembering, but I want to remember. What is it? What's my current project that I'm busy working on? Something that I can do all the time while I'm tying my shoelaces, while I'm working, while I'm driving. Those kinds of projects, right? Character projects, yes. I want to learn to be more patient, more disciplined, whatever, right? That's it. All those types of projects are things you can do all the time, but we forget. Yeah? And this is the way to remember. Use the association with the disrupting routines to associate with remembering to be aware of what you want to be aware of. It is super, super powerful. All right, here we go. The last battle. Wow, I got so many windows going on here. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Did I share properly? I don't think so. I shared my whole screen, right, Beena?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, go back and share it. Uh, I was in a hurry and I was doing it quickly. Too quickly. There we go. All right. There you are. There you are. There we are. The last battle on Earth. And this is it's kind of interesting because on this one we are going to really get to see Don Juan's mindset a little bit more in this. It's very cool. Yeah.
Yes.
Very, very cool. Very cool. All right. Brilliant. 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 Will you read please, Beena?
Okay,
You
let
read
me
please?
adjust my screen. Yes. The
Uh,
last battle on Earth. Monday, 24th July 1961. Around mid-afternoon, after we had roamed for hours in the desert, Don Juan chose a place to rest in a shaded area. As soon as we sat down, he began talking. He said that I had learned a great deal about hunting, but I had not changed as much as he had wished.
It's not enough to know how to mate and set up traps. A hunter must live as a hunter in order to draw the most out of their life. Unfortunately, changes are difficult and happen very slowly. Sometimes it takes years for a person to become convinced of the need to change. To become convinced of the need to change. When you're convinced, then change comes quicker. It's hard to get convinced. Right? Motivation, in other words, capital M motivation, very important. It took me years, but maybe I didn't have a knack for hunting. I think for me, the most difficult thing was to really want to change. Yes,
Wow.
yes,
Okay, so will you please copy this and paste it
yeah,
in the code file
yeah, yeah, yeah.
for a person to become convinced of the need? to a change.
Now, I'll put the whole line in there. Yes,
Yes.
the whole quote. Yes. Why is copying so weird in this particular file? I don't know why. It's very tricky to copy from here. By the way.
Okay.
Yeah. There we go.
Okay. I assured him I understood his point. In fact, since he had begun to teach me how to hunt, I also had begun to reassess my actions. Perhaps the most dramatic discovery for me was I liked Don Juan's ways. I liked Don Juan as a person. Ah,
Yeah.
it-
Is it me? I
yes,
like
if you
Don Juan
scroll,
as a person. Oh, huh? I shouldn't
yes,
need to scroll.
oh yes,
Did I scroll accidentally? What happened here now?
yes, yes,
Oh, there we go.
yes. Okay, yes. Now I can see. Okay. I assured him I understood his point. In fact, since he had begun to teach me how to hunt, I also had begun to reassess my actions. Perhaps the most dramatic discovery for me was that I liked Don Juan's ways. I liked Don Juan as a person. There was something solid about his behavior. The way he conducted himself left no doubt about his mystery,
Yeah.
mastery. And yet he had never exercised his advantage. Wow. And yet
Wow.
he had, yes, and yet he had never exercised
Let's
his
just back
advantage.
up a little bit there before.
Yes,
Carlos isn't a typical regular racist. He is just caught up in the superiority paradigm, and it's like running in the background, right? And it's just like this background AI of his that's very conventional, very typical. When he says, "I had never expected to like Don Juan," right?
hmm.
I liked Don Juan. There was something solid about his behavior. No, he didn't say it here now. Perhaps the most dramatic discovery for me was that I liked Don Juan's ways. I liked Don Juan as a person. This is a dramatic discovery. Why? Why is it a dramatic discovery? By implication, he didn't expect it. Yes.
Yes.
Why didn't he expect it?
Hmm. Because because in his mind there is nothing which actually can inspire him, can impress him,
Because
can
Don Juan's an old Indian. What is he going to
exactly.
have that's interesting to call us? He can be an informant and give him information, but that's subtle prejudice. And now he's, wow. And also he goes on to say there was something solid about him. He has this mastery, right? And then further, and yet he never exercised his advantage to demand anything from me. This is blowing Carlos's mind. He's never met anybody who he found to be superior to him in his own logic, yeah, and who didn't want something, didn't demand something from him, didn't exercise the superiority in every way. He can't. His mind is blown by this. Right? He can't see the logic here. It's fascinating. Please continue. Being really incredible.
Wow. Okay. I assured him. Okay. Again, it is
Oh no,
perhaps the
no,
most.
from his interest here.
Okay, his interest in changing my way of life, I felt, was akin to an impersonal suggestion, or perhaps it was akin to an authoritative commentary on my failures. He had made me very aware of my feelings, yet I could not see how his ways would remedy anything in me. I sincerely believe that, in light of what I wanted to do in my life, his ways would have only brought me misery and hardship. Hence the impulse. However,
Impasse. Yeah.
yes, I had learned to respect his mastery, which had always been expressed in terms of beauty and precision.
All right. 1 second to go back here.
Yes.
He said his interest in changing my way of life, I felt, was akin to an impersonal suggestion, or perhaps it was akin to an authoritative commentary on my failures. But that impersonal is very important here. It is impersonal. Don Juan has no personal stake in Carlos whatsoever. Zero. He doesn't actually like Carlos all that much, as later will come out. Well, not at this stage anyway. Yeah. However, he does all of this scrupulously, giving his full energy to it. Why?
Hmm.
Why, Beena?
I'm not like getting it. Like, what's the question in it?
Why does Don Juan do everything he does with Carlos?
Because
Where's the
in the big
motivation come from? How
because
did
in the beginning, Don Juan says that, okay, you came via attunement, and I'm doing what I was
exactly,
supposed to do.
exactly. Now, Don Juan didn't use the word attunement, but
Yes.
yes, yeah. Right? He was brought to you a sign, an omen. In other words, via attunement. Don Juan is missing this word attunement, unfortunately. It would really
Yes.
greatly enhance his vocabulary if he had it. It's not that he doesn't understand the concept. He absolutely does, but he doesn't have a word for it, doesn't have a term for it.
Hmm.
This would change everything. Anyway, so this is why Don Juan does it. And that's why Carlos feels it's impersonal, because it is. And it's something profound. In superiority paradigm, and for Carlos, his brain is struggling to comprehend how somebody could do something that is impersonal.
Hmm.
He can't fathom it. He can't grasp it. Yeah, it kind of blows his mind. Like, what's in it for Don Juan? He can't figure out what's in it for Don Juan. And he's saying, but he didn't use this advantage or whatever. He can't figure out the motivation because he cannot understand acting without agenda, which you need in order to live without attunement. Can't grasp this. All right, Don Juan
Hmm.
says, I have decided to shift my tactics.
Wow. I asked him to explain. His statement was vague, and I was not sure whether or not he was referring to me.
A good hunter changes his ways as often as he needs. You know that yourself.
What do you have in mind, Don Juan?
A hunter must not only know about the habits of his prey, he also must know there are powers on this earth which guide men and animals and everything that is alive.
Ah, there are powers on this earth that
Yeah,
guide a person, people, and animals, and everything that is living. Ah,
yeah.
okay.
Let's add that to our file.
Yes. He stopped talking. I waited, but he seemed to have come to the end of what he wanted to say. What kind of powers are you talking about?
Carl, it was very good. Well read there. Powers that guide our lives and our deaths.
Rodward stopped talking and seemed to be having tremendous difficulty in deciding what to say.
Hmm.
Seemed to have tremendous difficulty. Again, assumptions. Okay. He rubbed his hands and shook his head, puffing out his jaws. Twice he signaled me to be quiet as I started to ask him to explain his cryptic statements.
You won't be able to stop yourself easily. I know you're stubborn, but that doesn't matter. The more stubborn you are, the better it'll be when you finally succeed in changing yourself.
I'm trying my best.
No, I disagree. You're not trying your best. You just said that because it sounds good to you. In fact, you've been saying the same thing about everything you do. You've been trying your best for years to no avail. Something must be done to remedy that. Remember, we were saying the other day,
Yes.
I don't remember the context, but I was saying that we have to be careful of these assumptions we have, of these beliefs, like, oh, you can only do your best. But when you think it through, that's actually not true. The moment you learn something, you increase your best. Where you,
Hmm.
at that time, that's all you knew to do. But as an actual factual statement, you can do more than your best. In order to do better than your best, you have to learn. You have to learn how to increase your capabilities, your competencies, your skills, etc. Right? So doing your best sometimes is a bit of an excuse. You know you could do better if you knew how, but you don't want to make the effort to learn how. You don't want to make the effort to change, to grow. Carlos's problem. Yeah.
Yes. Wow. I felt
Yeah.
compelled. I felt compelled, as usual, to defend myself. Don Juan seemed to aim, as a rule, at my very weakest points.
Uh,
Don Juan seemed to aim, as a rule, at my very weakest points. I
No,
remember.
it's not that he's doing that. He's not trying to find your weak points. He's trying to find the leverage points. That makes a difference. Furthermore, he's just accurate and honest. Furthermore, you notice when he touches on your weakest points because they're sensitive to you. So you remember it, right?
Yes, I remember then every time I had attempted to defend myself against his criticism, I had ended up feeling like a fool, and I stopped myself in the midst of long explanatory speech. Don Juan examined me. Sorry, I'm laughing because okay, there are
No, it's
connections.
good. We have to. Don Juan and Don Gennaro, they find Carlos inordinately amusing, but they have developed the ability to laugh without any kind of derogatory, demeaning, or denigrating intent or attitude or meaning. Their laughter is just pure. It's just funny. You're being an idiot. It's just funny. They don't sugarcoat it. If you're being idiot, you're being an idiot. It's funny or whatever. You know, you're being ridiculous. It's
Don
very
Juan,
wonderful that ability to laugh purely like that.
okay. Don Juan examined me with curiosity and laughed. He said in a very kind tone, he had all that he had already told me
Well,
all
it's
of
good to leave
us.
out to that there. Was good. Was good.
Yes, that's why I read it again. So, kind of that he had already told me all of us were fools. I was not an exception.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Even then, taking all the limelight from Carlos. Okay.
Exactly. Exactly. That's a very astute, insightful commentary there. As much as Carlos feels vulnerable and weak, he also kind of likes being the fool because it gives him limelight.
Yes.
You always feel compelled to explain your acts as if you were the only person on earth who's wrong. See, self-importance. I'm special. No, it's your whole feeling of importance. Yeah, Don Juan says you have too much of it. Now, somebody say, and it's an astute observer might say, so why do you insist on making a commentary which is going to be said by Don Juan? Why do you preempt it? I mean, don't you just read it? It's going to be there. Well, now,
Yes.
I must say,
Yes.
it's like you don't need to do that. Don Juan's going to say it. You just do that so that you look clever, and that's not the reason for it, right? That's superiority paradigm interpretation. The reason I do it is because as I read, I have developed the practice of letting understanding come to me as to the why. I'm not just reading because it's a capital R reading. And I practice capital R reading in all reading that I do. So I want to have my brain trained to connect to the underlying motivations, the underlying logics, what's implied, and extrapolate from there, anticipate. And furthermore, this is a skill that you need to practice. When you get confirmation, like in this case, I got immediate confirmation because I didn't read the next sentence yet. I was right in the middle of that sentence. I get immediate confirmation. Oh, great. It helps me build up a database where I can rely on my assessments. Yeah. Because the more you do it and you say, well, okay, I'm usually right. Okay, well, then I can start to trust it. If I was wrong, like maybe, and I said, well, I have to rethink it. I have to rethink it. See, and so right? It's very, very, very helpful. It's a skills, and I'm practicing, right? Okay. It's your old feeling of importance. You have too much of it. You also have too much personal history. On the other hand, in this case, personal history is I'm a this, I'm a that. I've got these habits, I've got these tendencies. I feel this way, I believe that way. All of that is personal history. It's a self-conception, really, rather than personal history. Is a better word. But it's a self-description rather than self-conception, because conceptions are open-ended. Carlos says that description is very tight, very closed, very narrowing, very limiting. Yeah? All
Yes.
his excuses, in other words, all comes from his self-description. On the other hand, you don't assume responsibility for your acts. You are not using your death as an advice. And above all, you are too accessible. In other words, Your life is as messy as it was before I met you. I'm going to add this to the quote file too. Yeah.
Yes.
Because
Again, I had a
it has a nice little summary of all of the points that we've gone through so far. Yeah?
again I had a genuine surge of pride and wanted to argue that he was wrong. He gestured me to be quiet.
One must assume responsibility for being in a weird world. We are in a weird world, you know.
I nodded my head affirmatively.
We're not talking about the same thing. For you, the world is weird because if you're not bored with it, you're at odds with it. For me, the world is weird because it is stupendous, awesome, mysterious, unfathomable. My interest has been to convince you that you must assume responsibility for being here in this marvelous world, in this marvelous desert, in this marvelous time. I wanted to convince you that you must learn to make every act count. Since you are going to be here for only a short while, in fact, too short for witnessing all the marvels of it. In other words, moreness, right? There's moreness
Yes.
to the world. You know? That's why it's
Yes.
weird, because there's moreness. We don't expect moreness.
Yes. I insisted that to be bored with the world or to be at odds with it was the human condition.
Here we go with Carl's and his famous human conditions. Ugh, right?
Yes.
That this excuse that Carlos comes up. Yes, but I'm only human. And it's an excuse for his failings and indulgences and nonsense. Right? Because he doesn't want to make the effort. It's just excusing himself. Come on, man. Yeah. Right? Read the sentence again, please, Beena.
Okay. I insisted that to be bored with the world or to be at odds with it was the human condition.
So, change it. If you do not respond to that challenge, you're as good as dead.
He dared
It may
me.
be the human condition, but that doesn't mean that you have to accept that you can't change it. Right? Changing things is also the human condition, we could say. Otherwise, we'd all still be cavemen or primates, right?
He dared me to name an issue, an item in my life uh, had changed all my thoughts. I said, art. I had always wanted to be an artist, and for years I had tried my hand at that. I still had the painful memory of my failure.
You have never taken the responsibility for being in this unfathomable world.
He said in an
Therefore,
indicating tone,
indicting,
indicting.
like an indictment, like when you go to court and they indict you.
Oh, that's it.
Therefore, you were never an artist, and perhaps you'll never be a hunter.
This is my best, Don Juan.
No, you don't know what your best is.
I'm doing all I can.
You're wrong again. You can do better. There's one simple thing wrong with you. You think you have plenty of time.
He paused and looked at me as if waiting for my reaction.
You think you have plenty of time. I
Plenty
want
of
to add
time
this
for
to the
what?
file also, Beena.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, yeah. This is very important. This is very important. And you know what fascinates me here is that Carlos does not understand what he means when he says plenty of time. Plenty of time for what? Come on, man. Figure it out in context, Carlos. Seriously, you can't be that obtuse. It's basic
No, but
grammar.
you always insist on you have to provide context for every single time.
Oh, well, that's Carlos who wants it, but
You also
you
do.
think you're, yeah, context is important, but in this case, the context has already been provided.
Okay.
You think your life is going to last forever?
No, I don't.
Then If you don't think your life is going to last forever, what are you waiting for? Why the hesitation to change?
Has it ever occurred to you, Don Juan, that I may not want to change?
Yes, it has occurred to me. I did not want to change either, just like you. However, I didn't like my life. I was tired of it, just like you. Now I don't have enough of it.
I never read this word before.
Yeah, vehemently. Yeah, vehemently.
Vehemently, what it means?
What do you think it means in context? If you figure it
I
out from context.
vehemently asserted that his insistence about changing my life was frightening. Vehemently, like uh, irritatingly, like okay, feeling
With
bothered.
energy. With energy. Yeah.
Okay,
And,
okay,
maybe a bit negatively, but vehement is to be like energized.
okay,
Not angry necessarily, not irritated, not annoyed, but vehement is you insisting like
okay,
a little bit with pressure,
okay,
right?
okay. I vehemently asserted that his insistence about changing my way of life was frightening and arbitrary. I said I really agreed with him at a certain level, but the mere fact he was always the master that called the shots made the situation
Ah, come on, Carlos, come on,
unbearable.
man, come on. You don't have time for this display, you fool.
He said in a severe tone.
This, whatever you're doing now, may be your last act on earth. It may very well be your last battle. There is no power which could guarantee you are going to live one more minute.
Wow, wow. This is very strong now. Like
Oh
really.
yeah, oh yeah.
Okay. I know that. I said with the contained anger.
No, you don't. If you knew that, you would be a hunter.
I contended I was aware of my impending death, but it was useless to talk or think about it, since I could not do anything to avoid it. Don Juan laughed and said I was like a comedian going, okay, so scroll.
I will in a minute. I just want to copy this over you. Now that whole paragraph is very important. Yes, very important. Very important. Very important.
Yes.
A comedian. I thought I heard chameleon. You
No, no,
are
no.
like a
Like,
comedian going.
like
Yeah.
a comedian going mechanically through a routine.
If this were your last battle on earth, I would say you are an idiot. You're wasting your last act on earth in some stupid mood. And the stupid mood here is Carlos doesn't want to change because he doesn't want to accept that he needs to learn from Don Juan. He doesn't want to accept Don Juan's authority over him. Why is
Wow.
it an authority issue? Why not just accept Don Juan as a source of information? When you open some self-help book, does the book have authority over you? No, you're quite happy to read it from a book. But if you were in person with the same person, the author of that book, now suddenly you wouldn't be able to accept the information because now it's a person who has authority over you and they're superior and you're inferior. Oh my God, it's so pathetic. Yeah, that's what Don Juan
Yes.
is referring to. This is the mood. This is the patheticness. This immersion into superiority paradigm. Yeah, it's ridiculous, right? Let me read that again. If this were your last battle on earth, I would say you are an idiot. You're wasting your last act on earth in some stupid mood.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
We were quiet
yeah.
for a moment. My thoughts ran rampant. He was right, of course.
You have no time. No time. None of us have time.
I agreed on one, but
Agreements and disagreements mean absolutely nothing. Yes, right?
Yes.
Again, it's that superiority paradigm. Carlos thinks that agreeing is somehow going to appease and ameliorate and mollify Don Juan because that's his system. We see this, I'm pointing this out because these are things we take for granted. They paradigm things. So unless you point them out, we're like, well, duh. It's like you don't even realize it because it's paradigm stuff, right? And it's very helpful to point it out because suddenly we realize, oh my God, I do the same kind of nonsense, right? Yeah. Don't just agree with me. You must. Instead of agreeing so easily, act upon it. Take the challenge. Change. Without application, it's all meaningless. Your agreements mean nothing. Without application, agreements mean nothing. Without application, beliefs mean nothing. Yes.
Yes.
Without application, ideas mean nothing also. Take the challenge. Change. Just like, oh, that's Carlos.
Just like that?
That's right. The change I'm talking about never takes place by degrees. It happens suddenly. And you are not preparing yourself for that sudden act that will bring total change.
I believed he was expressing a contradiction. I explained to him if I were preparing myself to change, I was suddenly changing by degrees.
You haven't changed at all. That's why you believe you're changing little by little. Yet, perhaps you will surprise yourself someday by changing suddenly and without a single warning. I know this is so, and thus I don't lose sight of my interest in convincing you.
Wow. I could not persist in my arguing. I was not sure of what I really wanted to say. After a moment's pause, Don Juan went on explaining his point.
Perhaps I should put it in a different way. What I recommend you do is to notice we do not have any assurance our lives will go on indefinitely. I have just said change comes suddenly and unexpectedly, and so does death. Hmm. You know, death is quite a big change. Sorry, I'm amused at my own joke.
Yes.
What do you think we can do about it?
I thought he was asking rhetorical questions, but he made a gesture with his eyebrows, urging me to answer. To live as happily as possible.
Right. But do you know anyone who lives happily? I
My
do.
first,
I do.
my first impulse was to say yes. I thought I could use a number of people I knew as examples. On second thought, however, I knew my effort would only be an empty attempt at exonerating myself.
Yeah.
No, I really don't.
I do. There are some people who are very careful about the nature of their acts. There are some people who are very careful about the nature of the acts. Let's do it. A repeat back on that. Say it in a different way.
Okay, there are some people who really make deliberate choices and
There
they are
you
aware.
go. There are some people who live deliberately. They make deliberate choices.
Yes,
Fantastic repeat back. Yeah. Well, power of repeat backs, right? And also,
yes,
it's a more powerful way, I feel, of saying this, right?
yes,
To say, careful about the nature of the acts. One thing to be careful about the nature of your acts. I know some accountants who are very, very timid people. Okay, I don't want to give accountants a hard time now. I'm just thinking of that. But people who are janitors even, or I don't know, whatever. Doctors, very careful about their acts, but they don't live deliberately. They live in fear. So they're very careful because they don't want to get into trouble, right?
yes,
We all know those kids at school, right? Super careful about everything and never got into trouble. Yeah.
yes.
So see, that doesn't count. That's why I understand what Don Juan means, but what he means here and what he says, not the same thing. Correct?
Hmm.
No. There are some people who are very careful about the nature of the acts. their happiness is to act with the full knowledge they don't have time. That's what makes it deliberate. See, now we understand in the context why being careful here means deliberate. Yeah?
Yes.
Therefore, their acts have a peculiar power. Their acts have a sense of
Don Juan seemed to be at a loss for words. He scratched his temples and smiled. And suddenly he stood up as if he were through with our conversation. I beseeched him to finish what he was telling me. He sat down and puckered up his lips.
acts have power, especially when the person acting knows those acts are his last battle or their last battle. There is a strange consuming happiness in acting with the full knowledge that whatever one is doing may very well be one's last act on earth. I recommend you reconsider your life and bring your acts into that life. Just an astute observer will notice it is the first time that Don Juan uses the impersonal pronoun one.
Hmm.
Yeah, he almost
Yes.
always says he, but here he says
Yes.
one.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
I disagree with him. Happiness for me was to assume there was an inherent continuity to my acts, and I would be able to continue doing at will whatever I was doing at the moment, especially if I was enjoying it. I told him my disagreement was not a banal one, but stemmed from the conviction the world and myself that the world and myself had a determinable continuity.
Yeah.
Don Juan seemed to be amused by my efforts to make sense. Seriously. He laughed, shook his head, scratched his hair, and finally, when I talked about a determinable continuity, threw his hat to the ground and stamped on it. I ended up laughing at his clowning.
You don't have time, my friend. That is the misfortune of human beings. None of us have sufficient time. And your continuity has no meaning in this awesome, mysterious world. Your continuity only makes you timid. Your acts cannot possibly have the flair, the power, the compelling force of the acts performed by a person who knows they are fighting their last battle on earth. In other words, your continuity does not make you happy or powerful.
I admitted I was afraid of thinking I was going to die and accused him of causing great apprehension in me with his constant talk and concern about it.
I've never understood this. I've never understood this.
No, you need to
This
understand
fear
unnecessary
of,
emphasis for Carlos.
but all it is people latching onto an idea that they don't think through.
Hmm.
Yeah. If you're afraid of death, you're afraid of an inevitability, right? Which means that you have to live your whole life in fear. How does that make any sense? The only time you cannot live in fear is when you ignore the reality. How does that make sense? So you have to be dishonest with yourself in order to be happy. Because if you have awareness of death, then you have to be afraid. Why cannot death be the reverse instead? Instead of being a negative, why can't it be a positive? A motivating factor, a leveraging factor, a gift. Philosophy of opposites. Death is a gift. Should I put that in the book, Beena? Or is it
Yes.
too deep, too heavy, too controversial? I'm serious.
I don't know because so far I have not experienced things in our conversation of any topic that this is like, oh, this is too heavy, too deep.
No,
I don't
but
know
that's you.
what is
But
happy
that's
and what
you.
is deep.
But that's
Uh,
you. But that's you. That's the magic and the moreness and
it is
the
just
just
okay.
absolute
Oh,
gift of you. That
it
it's
has
not so for
value.
you.
Yeah, it has value. It's understanding. What's the meaning of deep and heavy in it? This is
But
this
now, when
is
we think about this, right, and we take
yeah.
death and we turn it upside down, it becomes this wonderful potency, this power
But these
that
are the
makes
most
my next act meaningful.
okay. I personally feel
Fantastic.
when I'm discussing, when I'm having this conversation, or if I'm just listening from you or anyone, and it, of course, addressing these topics or sharing these topics in detail and elucidating it, I feel that okay, my very most personal issues matters have been discussed. This is how I feel.
Yeah,
So for me, it's not heavy because
exactly.
these are my matters. These are my very personal matter because I want to understand that, and this is going to be to happen to me, and I am part of it, part of this world. So whatever is happening in this world, other than my mundanity, I want to get more, and this is how I feel that. Oh yes, I'm included. What's heavy and what's deep? Nothing.
I'll add it there. It's such a potent point, 50 ways to be smarter using opposite. This is about the smartest one. Actually, I think Beena, that probably be a, the, the topic to close the book on. Yeah?
Mm.
Right? What do you think?
Yes.
I think so. All right. All right. I don't know if you can read or not. I'll be there in a second.
Okay.
Topic's name is Death is the Ultimate Opposite. I can't think of a better title right now,
Yes.
but
Okay.
that seems to be good. Ah, come on now. What happened there? I was typing and then nothing happened.
Okay. He pointed towards some hills in the distance.
Oh, I'll be there in a second. Okay. 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 Very important. Very important. You got to add these things now. You can't say, "Oh, I'll do it later." Later never comes. Pointed to some hills in the distance.
Yes, yes, yes. This paragraph. Yes, there is something.
There is something out there waiting for me, for sure, and I will join it. Also, for sure. But perhaps you're different, and death is not waiting for you at all.
He laughed at my gesture of despair. I don't want to think about it, Don Juan.
I understand this. I don't want to think about it. Carlos, let's not think about it. When will we think about it, Carlos?
Once we will
Okay,
leave that
I stress you, I upset you. When? Next week? No, I'll still be upsetting next week. Next month? No. Next year? No. Next decade? You're going to go your whole life and never think about it and avoid this issue. Why? Because it's an awful truth. And you cannot, and you have not developed the ability to face and deal with the awful truth. Now, face and deal with it and turn it into the awesome truth. Yeah? It is preposterously, ridiculously stupid to say, I don't want to think about it. Why not?
it is meaningless. If it is out there waiting for me, why should I worry about it?
Who the hell said you have to worry about it? Where did you get this idea that you have to worry
Don
about
Juan
it
is
from?
not
Where did
that.
you get that from?
Don Juan is not that rude. Sorry.
Where did you get that from, Carlos? Where did you get that from? Explain
What
to
am
me
I
where you
supposed?
got this idea that you have to worry about it.
What am I
Yeah? I
supposed to
didn't
do then?
say you have to worry about it. I didn't say you have to worry about it.
What am I supposed to do then?
Use it. Focus your attention on the link between you and your death without remorse or sadness or worry. Focus your attention on the fact you don't have time, that your acts flow accordingly. Let each of your acts be your last battle on earth. Only under those conditions your acts have their rightful power. Otherwise, they will be, for as long as you live, the acts of a timid person. I want
It
to
is.
I want to emphasize
Yeah.
conceptuality. Yeah?
Yes.
instead of this last battle on your earth, which is a little bit hard to grasp, yes,
Mm.
rather to say, learn to live deliberately, using your death as an ally instead of as a fearful thing. Use your death as a motivator. Yes. Now, if you have any kind of spiritual or religious understanding, think to yourself, maybe, just maybe. Well, you don't even have to have that. You can be agnostic as well. But just let's go on this hypothetical. That just maybe the entire universe makes sense. Life makes sense. Capital M, capital S makes sense. As such, if we assume that life makes sense, we have to assume that death, being an integral part of life, also makes sense. Yeah? That there's a good
Yes.
reason for it. Not just happenstance, not just random, but a good reason for it. What is the good reason? It is the most brilliant motivator. You're not very motivated now, even though you are going to die. Imagine what a wastrel you would be and how indolent you would be, Carlos, if you did not have death as a motivator. You would just go round and round in your empty circles forever. Holy moly, this would be terrible. And you would develop habits of indolence. Yeah?
Mm.
And you get stuck in that loop, and your life would be horrible forever. Oh, that's terrible. See? Death makes
Yes.
sense. Saving you from this fate that's worse than death. Many things worse than death, yeah? To live that way, horrible. Right? So now we see that if life makes sense, death makes sense. And it's therefore a good reason. Therefore, it's a positive, not a thing. Change your mind. Yeah? Philosophy of opposite. This is the magic of philosophy of opposite. We start to realize that pretty much everything that we assume to be one way is actually the opposite. We assume death is a big negative, actually it's a big positive. It's incredible. Really, really transformative. Right? Very big deal. Very, very, very big deal. Right? Okay. Let's see how far we are here from the end. Oh, not very far. Okay, because I do have to go, but let's finish. Let's see. Where was this? Yeah, here we go, Beena.
Is it so terrible to be a timid person?
No, it isn't if you are going to be immortal. But if you are going to die, there's no time for timidity. Simply because timidity makes you cling to something which exists oh, only in your thoughts. Yeah, because timidity makes you cling to something which exists only in your thoughts. It soothes you while everything is at the low. But then the awesome, mysterious world will open its mouth for you, as it will open for every one of us. And then you'll realize that your sure ways were not sure at all. Being timid prevents us from examining and exploring our lot as people.
Exploiting our lot as a person?
Sorry, from exploiting. Yeah, not exploring. Did I say exploring? Sorry, it's exploiting.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Okay.
yeah. Taking advantage of it, maximizing would probably be a better word than exploiting.
It is not natural to live with the constant idea of our death, Don Juan.
Carlos, wherever did you get this idea of what is natural? Have you ever thought that what is natural is the lowest common denominator? Yeah,
Yeah.
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 You never thought of that. You never thought of that. So you use this, what is supposedly natural, which is the lowest common denominator, in other words, which is insensibility, foolishness, and you claim this as being what is sensible. No, it's not. It's the lowest common denominator. It's not sensible at all. Just because it's natural, you are saying it's natural by implication. This is what I should be doing. No, don't do what's natural. What's natural is the worst thing you can do because it's the lowest common denominator. Yeah,
Yes.
philosophy of opposite once again. Right?
Wow.
Yeah,
It's your turn
yeah.
to read?
Actually, let me add that. Let me add that in there now. I mean, this is so
Oh,
powerful.
yes.
Right? Yeah. Wow. Wow. Right. You read Don Juan while I type this.
Okay. Just a minute, sir. I need to search something very immediate as well.
Okay.
Okay. Coming back to
Yeah,
me.
that's a very powerful point. You know, we have this subscription to what is natural, assuming that natural is sensible, but it's not. Yeah,
Okay.
it's not sensible at all.
Is it so terrible to be a timid person? No, it isn't.
No, it isn't.
If you are,
No, I'll
oh
read.
no,
I'm here. No, it isn't if you're going to be immortal, but if you're going to die, there's no time for timidity. Simply because timidity makes you cling to something that exists only in your thoughts. It soothes you while everything is at a loss. But then the awesome, mysterious world will open its mouth for you, as it will open its mouth for every one of us. And then you will realize there are sure ways. Your sure ways were not sure at all. Being timid prevents us from examining and exploiting our lot as sentient beings.
it is not natural to live with the constant idea of our death, Don Juan.
Our death is waiting, and this very act we're performing now may well be our last battle on earth. I call it a battle because it is a struggle. Most people move from act to act without any struggle or thought. Deliberateness is a better word than struggle. A hunter, on the contrary, assesses every act, and since they have an intimate knowledge of their death, they proceed judiciously, as if every act were their last battle. Only a fool would fail to notice the advantage a hunter has over their fellow people. A hunter gives their last battle its due respect. Its due respect.
Wow!
It's oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Wow!
It's only natural that their last battle on earth should be the best of themselves. It
Oh
is
my
pleasurable
God!
that way. It dulls the edge of their fright.
Oh wow!
It's an obvious thing that Don Juan would use due respect. It's a derby. It's a derby, right?
No, it's
It's one of
yes,
those
it's
things.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
there, of
It's
course.
wonderful.
But
It's brilliant.
but
It's beautiful.
for me, it's a beautiful, beautiful big connection.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It makes you realize that you're on the same page. Yeah.
Yes,
You're thinking in the same way. Yes.
yes, I love
Well,
this.
it's very clear you don't think like Carlos.
But having this connection with Don Juan, it's like amazing. Wow, I love this.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's most wonderful.
Oh yes. Okay. You're right. I conceded. It's just hard to accept.
It'll take years for you to convince yourself, and then it'll take years for you to act accordingly. I only hope you have time left.
I get scared when you say that.
As you should. As you
Don,
should.
Don Juan examined me with a serious expression on his face.
I've told you, this is a weird world. The forces which guide men are unpredictable, awesome, yet their splendor is something to witness.
He stopped talking and looked at me again. He seemed to be on the verge of revealing something to me, but he checked himself and smiled. Is there something that
And
guides us?
certainly, there are powers that guide us.
Can you describe them?
Not really, except to call them forces, spirits, airs, winds, or anything like that. I would add in there intents.
I
To call
wanted
them
to probe
forces,
further.
intents, spirits, airs, winds, or anything like that.
Yes. I wanted to probe him further, but before I could ask anything else, he stood up. I stared at him, flabbergasted. He had stood up in one single movement. His body simply jerked up, and he was on his feet. I was still pondering upon the unusual skill would be needed in order to move with such speed when he told me in a dry tone of command to stalk a rabbit, catch it, kill it, skin it, and roast the meat before the twilight. He looked up at the sky and said that I might have enough time. I automatically started off proceeding the way I had done scores of times. Don Juan walked beside me and followed my movements with a scrutinizing look. I was very calm and moved carefully, and I had no trouble at all in catching a male rabbit.
Kill it.
Don Juan said dryly. I reached into the trap and grabbed hold of the rabbit. I had it by the
Two,
ears.
two. Hang on. Read that again.
Okay, I reached into the to grab hold of the
Two.
rabbit.
Yeah.
Okay, I had it by the ears and was pulling it out when a sudden sensation of terror invaded me. For the first time since Don Juan had begun to teach me to hunt, it occurred to me he had never taught me how to kill game. In the scores of times we had roamed in the desert, he himself had only killed one rabbit, two quail, and one rattlesnake. I dropped the rabbit and looked at Don Juan. I can't kill it.
Why not?
I've never done that.
But you killed hundreds of birds and other animals.
With a gun, not with my bare hands.
What difference does it make? The rabbit's time is up.
Don Juan's tone shocked me. It was so authoritative, so knowledgeable. It left no doubts in my mind that he knew the rabbit's time was up.
Kill it.
He commanded with a ferocious look in his
Ferocious,
eyes.
ferocious. Yeah.
I can't. He yelled at me that the rabbit had to die. He said its roaming in that beautiful desert had come to an end. I had no business stalling because the power or the spirit that guides rabbits and led particular one into my trap right at the edge of the twilight. A series of confusing thoughts and feelings overtook me, as if the feelings had been out there waiting for me. I felt with agonizing clarity the rabbit's tragedy, to have fallen into my trap. In a matter of seconds, my mind swept across the most crucial moments of my own life, the many times I had been the rabbit myself. I looked at it and looked at me, and it looked at me. The rabbit had backed up against the side of the cage. It was almost curled up, very quiet and motionless. We exchanged a somber glance, and that glance, which I fancied to be of silent despair, cemented a complete identification on my part. Oh, the hell with it. I won't kill anything. That rabbit goes free. A profound emotion made me shiver. My arms trembled as I tried to grab the rabbit by the ears. It moved fast and I missed. I again tried and fumbled once more. I became desperate. I had the sensation of nausea and quickly kicked the trap in order to smash it and let the rabbit go free. The cage was unsuspectedly strong and did not break as I thought it would. My despair mounted to an unbearable feeling of anguish. Using all my strength, I stamped on the edge of the cage with my right foot. The sticks cracked loudly. I pulled the rabbit out. I had a
Can
moment
you
to
see what's
think.
going to come,
I had
by
a
the way?
moment. Yes, I'm kind of guessing.
I had a moment of relief, which was shattered to bits in the next instant. The rabbit hung limp in my head. It was dead. I did not know what to do. I became preoccupied with finding out how it had died. I turned to Don Juan. He was staring at me. A feeling of terror sent a chill through my body. I sat down by some rocks. I had a terrible headache. Don Juan put his hand on my head and whispered in my ear that I had to skin the rabbit and roast it before the twilight was over. I felt nauseated. He very patiently talked to me as if he were talking to a child. He said the powers that guided men or animals had led that particular rabbit to me. In the same way, they will lead me to my own death. He said the
The
rabbit's death. Okay. Sorry?
In the same way, they will lead me to my own death.
Okay. They will lead me to my own death. He said the rabbit's death had been a gift for me in exactly the same way my own death will be a gift for something or someone else. I was
Yeah.
dizzy. The simple events of the day had crushed me. I tried to think it was only a rabbit. I could not, however, shake off the uncanny identification I had had with it. Don Juan said I needed to eat some of its meat, if only a morsel, in order to validate my finding. I can't do that, I protested meekly.
We are dregs in the hands of those forces. So stop your self-importance and use this gift properly.
I picked up the rabbit. It was warm. Don Juan leaned over and whispered in my ear. Your trap was
Your
his
trap
last
was the
remedy.
last battle on earth. I told you, you had no more time to roam in small.
Oh,
Yeah, 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 yeah. That could be you in there. That could be you in there, Carlos. I have to go, but I want to tell a quick little story about the same thing.
oh yes,
When I
please.
was living in the desert, uh, there were sheep there, but they weren't my sheep to eat, right? However, we were eating rice every day just because of the peculiarities of it. And I said, okay, a change of diet would be good, and I'll avail myself of the sheep. Yeah, I'm using my words sparingly. I mean, it's not that they just because they weren't my sheep, but it's a long story. But I suppose I could have availed myself, but I didn't just because I used my words sparingly. But came a day which I decided, yes, I am going to go and catch a sheep. Furthermore, I also wanted to test myself. Yeah,
Mm,
application to know that I can. Yes, off I go. And I did multiple things. I didn't have a gun or anything, so I catch the sheep by hand. I had learned how to do this, and you find a corner where the fences are, and you herd the animal into the corner. I used to do it with the foals when I worked on a stud farm, and foals are fast and sneaky, and they like to play with you. Right? Sheep was quite a lot easier with sheep. But anyway, when they make a move to run, let's say to the left, you have to watch their intent. And the moment they start, they don't quite do it yet. They start. Should I go this way? You move ahead of them. No, I won't go that way because they're going to be there. And you preempt them, and then you keep walking closer every time you do this. It is just pure psychology, really. Preemptive, anticipative psychology. But that's a different topic, right? Anyway, so I go closer, closer, and I get to the sheep. Now, this is not a tame sheep, right? This is, they out on their own. You come near them, they run away. The closer I come to the sheep, you'd think by the time I got right to the sheep that it would go crazy. You've seen when animals are trapped, right? Those videos, and the nice people try to free the bird trapped in the fence or whatever, and these animals attack the people like crazy, right? When they're trying to free them, for heaven's sake. You would think the sheep would likewise. The moment I got there, it would squirm and kick. I put my hand on it. The sheep was completely still. I just held onto its wool, and I walked it back to the farmhouse, and that was the end of it. Same as the rabbit. No resistance. Yeah? Life does not work the way we think it does. Yeah? Does not. It does not.
Yes.
Very powerful incident, right? It's very powerful. It's very magical. So anyway, we had me. And again, I didn't do what Carlos did, obviously. Because if you don't, Carlos not eating is not giving that rabbit due respect. Right, Beena?
Yes.
Yeah. Carlos, Don Juan could have been harsh with him. He said, all your foolishness, all you ended up was terrorizing this poor rabbit to death. It was going to die anyway. You could have made it as quick and painless as you possibly could, but all your fooling trying to get it out there basically terrorized it to death. So think about that, Carlos. But he didn't say it to Carlos. He said for Carlos there. Right? Yeah. So your kindness, in other words, inappropriate application of goodness. You think you're being kind and generous, meanwhile you just did something horrible. Yeah. Be appropriate.
Yes.
Be appropriate. Be appropriate. Be appropriate. Yeah. Carlos was not appropriate in that instance. All right, we'll leave it there because I have to go. And that's very powerful. Very powerful. All right. Bye bye, everybody. Bye bye. So Beena, we'll skip your closing.
Yes.
I know it's
Yes.
important, but
Okay.
we'll
Bye
skip.
for now. We will see you guys tomorrow, same time, same
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
See you
All
there.
right.
Bye
Bye
for
bye.
now.
Bye bye. Bye bye.